Let's go. Back again for the first time.
Yo.
It's the Big Toe Show.
We back at the house, man. Look, in the background, you hear the sounds of Tony Atlanta and my homeboy Agape. The song is called Freedom. That's going to be our theme song for right now because that's how we feeling. I told y'all some days I feel like Malcolm. Some days I feel like Mark. Today I'm feeling a little Malcolm. We're going to have a great show. Yo, we got some great guests lined up.
Wait. Oh, we don't call them guests.
Oh, we have some great co-stars
There we go.
for the show today. We got some very interesting people to have some conversation. You know, a lot of stuff going on, and we just want to talk about it.
We want to talk about it. Thank you for sharing y'all day with us.
Yeah.
And it really is good to be back. And so, you know, we just got to get back into the swing of things. We want people to come on in.
It's
tell
been
your
3
friends.
months. It's been 3 months since we've been on air. Like 3 long months. You know what I mean?
We're going to have to talk about it. Letting folks get online. Tell your friends to tell a friend to go ahead, join the chat, join the feed. Just come on.
Yeah.
Watch the show. It's about to go down.
If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at thebigcoastshow@gmail.com. You can also go to Big Co TV on YouTube to catch this stream once it's done. I am your man, Big Co.
And I am Mastermind.
Back in the house again. Like, you know, so what's been going on in the last 3 months? I mean, we've talked on the phone. I know the virtual school is going on. Like, before we bring the co-stars on, I just want to catch up with my brother. Like, what's been up with you?
School with my daughter. Just first of all, just to break it down for the people that's new to the show. My name is Arvell Mastermind Poe. Married, going on 16 years.
Wow!
Shout out to my wife is Diva. We co-host a radio talk show together called The Takeover. I got a daughter. She's 10, named Jan, and actor, radio personality, and all around cool guy.
All around cool guy, which is why you are my co-host on this thing. I couldn't do this thing without you. I guess I should introduce myself to people.
Please.
Corey G. Redding, and the G stands for Go Time.
All right.
Big Co is the alias. I'm a graduate of the University of Georgia. I have been in entertainment, marketing, sales for about 15 to 20 years. I also, I guess I'm not an actor like you know what I'm saying? I used to get checks. You still get checks. You know what I'm saying? I used to get checks, but, you know, still this entertainment thing is what we do. So what we decided to do is, you know, put a show together. There's a lot of things going on. A lot of things going on in the area of social, like injustices. We got 2020 coming up, big election coming up, you know. And in general, we just like talking to y'all. We like being the bridge between people. We know that there are a lot of conversations that aren't being had that we want to bring to the table. So that's what the Big Co Show is about. And today, we have a great array of co-stars, as we call them on the show, that are going to talk about some issues that are very, very near and dear to everybody's heart right now. Like recently, last week we had the DNC, and this week we're running the RNC, both those conventions. So just having some conversation. And the way this particular show came about is,
tell them.
If I'm being honest, right? So I know for a fact that I have friends, people that are close to me that will vote Trump in November, right? And there's been a growing sentiment of, you know, how these people view people of color. And I can tell you from a personal standpoint that I know people that absolutely love people of color that will vote Trump. So what we wanted to do was kind of have conversations about what it is that appeals to those people. You know what I mean? If it is not, you know, the rhetoric. So Arvell is not a true believer. I don't think he really believes that these people exist. Do you think that they exist?
They can change my mind and get me to vote with the RNC and to Trump.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Like, do you think there exist people that are like legitimate Trump supporters that aren't a part of all of the bad side, the bad stuff that comes with Trump? Like,
I can say Republicans.
Okay.
I can say Republicans. It's hard. You got a long road to hoe if you're going to try to sell me on 45. That's just me being 100, and that's what we do on the show.
We keep it 100. We keep it 100. So let's go ahead and introduce our co-stars. I guess we're going to start with Carlene.
Yes. Hey, Carlene, we're going to introduce you to the show. Carlene is a married mother of 3, currently living in a rural farming community called Silverwood
in Michigan.
Oh, Michigan! Shout out to Michigan.
Shout out to the MI.
She spent 20 years working in hospitals as a medical technologist, supervisor, and manager. She left healthcare and has been teaching in public school system at an alternative school, working with at-risk youth. She is currently working on getting her Michigan teacher's license. Big shout out. Welcome, Carlene.
Carlene, can you hear us okay?
Good evening.
It's that rural farming community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So look, do me a favor. Let's introduce our next co-star. We'll get Carlene to log back on in a second. I know she's having some connectivity issues.
All right.
She's out in God's country. Let's talk to
Adrian, welcome to the Big Coach Show.
Adrian is a friend of mine. He's a graduate of God's University, the illustrious University of Georgia.
Yep.
He's a father. He coaches. He is a great orator, whether he knows it or not. And I just want to a quick thing about Adrian. The reason I invited Adrian on the show is just the way he so eloquently expresses his point.
Oh,
it's like you ever feel like you got really cursed out, but they didn't curse?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that. So it's just the way he just delivers his point. So how are you doing this evening, Adrian?
I'm doing good. I appreciate the words. Growing up and even now, I never considered myself a great orator. So that's a first, but I'm taking it.
Yeah. So even like we had a phone conversation earlier today, and I was just like, man, this guy could be on the show all the time. Like he just sounds great. And everything he says, it's so articulate. It's great. And I hate to use that word when we talk about black people. But you know what I mean. He's very educated. So welcome to the show, Adrian. And next up, our next co-star, we have Arash Ferengi. Arash, what's good, brother?
What's happening? Welcome.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Father of 3, right?
That's right.
Been married for 24 years.
Correct.
And I want you to tell us a little bit about some of the volunteer work you do, because you sent me some very good stuff, but I want you to go into a little bit more detail about what you do, because you do a lot of work in the community. So if you want to tell the people a little bit more about your volunteerism.
Yeah, definitely. I was introduced to a program called Proverbs 226. It's basically transforming one life, at a time. Statistics show that, 70 to 80% of the kids whose parents are in prison will end up in prison themselves. And, what is a better way to really get involved with a program that provides an opportunity for those kids to break the cycle and the generation of just repeating the same thing over and over. And what the program does, it goes to, I'll tell you about my experience here in North Carolina. So here I live in Raleigh, and in the Central Prison in Raleigh, for the first time ever, had one-on-one visitations allowed for a father to embrace a child or their daughter, their son. And we were able to, with the program, go in there and talk to the warden, talk to the counselors. And these particular prisoners have to be clean of any misconduct or anything for 1 year. And when they do that, they earn the opportunity to be able to have those visitations. And when a child and a parent is involved in the program, that child's college will be paid for.
Oh, wow.
We have SAS, which is a huge computer programming technology right here in RTP that partnered up with us, are teaching kids in Charlotte how to do code. We had Skechers partnered up with us. There's so many impactful moments watching a father read a letter that wrote to their kid asking for forgiveness, washing the kid's feet, putting brand new pair of shoes on, watching the guards, the wardens crying, and not only that, but providing the tools for those parents that are in jail to really change their lives. Yeah. Some of them are in there forever.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of program I've been involved with. We have a friend that started a ministries in Durham called Embrace Durham. And Durham is one of the most richest areas in some sections of North Carolina, very wealthy. And then you have some sections that are government ran housing, a lot of homeless, a lot of low income families that my friend's ministry, Embrace Durham, goes out and provides backpacks for the homeless, survivor kits. They go and bring groceries. In Christmas time, we bring presents for the families that cannot afford it. And so those kind of things I've been involved with.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Welcome to the show. And then our final co-star, last but not least, I got to bring up Albert Cloud because he has so much that he's done. You know, that I don't want to shortchange the brother at all. Albert McCray III, welcome to the show. Albert McCray and Arash and out, the three of us all attended Pebblebrook High School in Cobb County, Mapleton, Georgia.
Full disclosure.
Albert has been like on my radar to talk to for years because I've been like a fan of his from a distance. So Albert is a graduate of University of Southern Mississippi and also Pebblebrook High School. He received a bachelor's degree in science, a bachelor of science degree in mechanical engineering. He worked for 20 years in the engineering field. He had two high-profile designs, and two high-profile designs are under plumbing and mechanical design for Troup County High School. He was the past chair for the Austell Community Task Force. He worked with Wellstar Board, the Cobb Wellstar Cobb Board. He was a board member. He was the past president of the South Cobb Rotary, and he's still an avid supporter of Pebblebrook High School, our alma mater, and proudly lives in Mapleton. Albert, welcome to the show, brother. Thank you so much for taking the time out.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to dialogue and come together as alumni and just express our concerns and try to find consensus in bringing our country together.
Yeah. So one of the things that I was thinking about, after, and Albert and I had, we talked last night. One of the things I was thinking about is bringing it together, right? So part of that is kind of understanding what's going on the other side of the table. So one of the things that I wanted to do with this show tonight, I wanted to kind of, take a peek behind the curtain from a person who supports a particular platform or a particular candidate, what it is that moves them about that candidate now. And so, of course, Donald J. Trump is one of the most polarizing figures in the world. Well, he's the most polarizing figure in the world. So you're going to always have two sides of that. So what I wanted to do, rather than just, have arguments and yell and talk about why we didn't like what, I wanted to just kind of dig in and have, ask some very intelligent questions about what it is that motivates you by either candidate, whether you're on the Biden Kamala train or whether you're with Donald Trump. So I'll start with you, Arash, because you and I have had some pretty interesting conversations on social media. Like you're very vocal about what you believe and what you support. And so I guess my initial question is to a person like myself, right, who would consider you a friend, right? And I'm giving you that today because, I think friends know each other's kids' middle names, but a person that I would definitely consider you a friend, what would you say to me to help me understand with everything going on and everything that we're seeing and everything that's being reported? What is it that moves you about the candidate, and what is it that you support? And after you respond, Albert, I'm gonna give you a chance to kind of a rebuttal. I don't want to say rebuttal, like I'll ask some questions or make some points or what I mean. Okay. Because rebuttal sounds like a debate. I just want this to be more like a conversation. You know what I mean?
Let's talk. Keep it 100.
Well, for disclosure, I am in the middle of doing a research program, and I'm about to finish my bachelor's in human and family development. Oh. So in my research study, there are some, unfortunately, social media things that I'm going after to showing the effects. And some of the comments and some of the agitation is purposely done with certain particular words to get reaction. So I wanted, for disclosure, some of the things that I do post on Facebook do get deleted after 24 hours because I am putting a research together for my thesis. So with that said,
I got to call time out.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I just want to let you know. I knew that. Some things that you say, I'm like, he did this to get a reaction from me, and I fall in every time. But I didn't get off. Go ahead. But I knew that.
But I've also equal opportunity on both sides. So there are Trump supporters that I have done the same thing to get the reaction and what the social media is doing, and the study and how much time people are spending. Like, for example, I have calculated how quickly Albert responds, how quickly you respond with certain particular keywords. And not only that, but I watch what Facebook promotes and the algorithm they've been using. So there's a lot of it going on. I'm excited to release that soon. And when I do, I'll send you a copy. But
so basically, I'm a laboratory rat. Is that what we're saying? Thanks.
Everybody, unfortunately, responds. But back to your question, I want what's best for America. You know, I lived in Iran, and I was taken away from my mom, and I was there for 14 years. So when I came to what was it, Lindley Middle School, I think, and we went to public high school. That was, my first introduction to America. I spoke broken English for a long time, but I was able to figure it out, right? And with that said, when I was over there, I always wanted the opportunity to come here because this is a land of the free, AKA, but there are a lot of things that need to change. And I agree. Like, for example, today watching, the Attorney General from, Milwaukee, talking about trying to justify and I feel like the information he was giving, he was setting us up for a not guilty conviction on the police officer. He was basically saying, based on these laws, we're going to do investigation by a third party. When the third party gives us a result, it just kept going down, like almost setting up the community for a not guilty when it happens, and that his hands are tied. That's how he was explaining it, and that's why I took it.
Yeah, definitely dig into that. But I'm just saying, like, 30-second elevator pitch. What is it about the Trump platform that makes you a believer and a supporter?
I believe the promises he gave during his campaign 4 years ago, he's kept almost every single one of them. And he's doing it with so many roadblocks that are always fighting him. And what I like about him, he's not a career politician. And we need that change. When our forefathers, put the Constitution, wasn't meant to be a lifelong politician over and over and over. And for me, he's doing things that are stirring up the hornet's nest. And that's what I like. That's what I want. I want no more lifetime politicians.
Specifically, these promises that were kept. Like, give me an example.
Well, being that I'm part Iranian, Israel and Iran don't get along. He said he was going to move the embassy to Jerusalem. He did that. He has brokered a peace treaty between United Arab Emirates and Israel, which no one ever thought that could happen. He talked about it. He has given the opportunity zones that he's partnering up and providing all the opportunities for African Americans to go in and invest. And he, in that program, he's not allowing 500 Fortune companies to go in. It's about the community that represents itself to be able to invest in those particular communities. Those kind of things, the what is it he did just recently, the criminal reform, to me, those kind of things are really important. Here we got politicians that are there 47 years and plus, and people have voted for the same particular party for so long. Do you think I voted Republican every year? No, I haven't. But how many more times do I want to keep voting for the same party and not see changes? To me, that's the most important thing. Why do we vote for the same party? Because we've done it over and over and over when we don't get a difference and anything changing.
I give you props for saying that with a straight face and believing it. I mean, it's how do you? It's okay. So on one hand, you guys receive some of the things that he promised, and you're good with that. But on the other hand, how do you justify some of the losses that this country has taken?
Before we get there, I want to go to Albert real quick. Albert, are you buying what he's selling?
Well, I hear what he's saying, and that's what we're here to do, is hear what he's saying. But the bigger picture of this country is too big of a leader in the world, and it has so much momentum and influence for our leader to be so divisive. And so within that divisiveness of demonizing Black and brown people from the day one, he has created an environment, a reality show environment, that right now got us in the middle of a pandemic and people marching in the streets and people not trusting one another and at each other's throat.
And that's been my issue. So Arash, back to that, like, what would you say in response to like a person of color, as you are, and you're saying that he's creating, and really we kind of group like Latinos and African Americans in one group, but it's really kind of us and then the other minorities that are really feeling it. It's really us and the Latino community that's really feeling, the effects of having a leader that's pretty much saying it's okay to do a lot.
That's too dangerous.
What would you say to somebody that says something like that, Arash?
I agree with Albert. I mean, some of the things he says are not what I stand for. Again, for me, it's the action of what he's doing in the Oval Office. Now, did somebody need to sit him down and slap him around and say, "Hey, you're the leader of the free world. You cannot tweet, this, and that's unacceptable to me."
But that comes with not being a career politician,
which is one of the things that you said you liked about. Right?
I do like about that, because the things he said he's doing, he is stepping over the politicians that will, put regulations in. They'll put, for example, the 1994 crime bill has robbed the African American community of an entire generation of fathers for the same crime that his son, having crack cocaine and powdered cocaine, he doesn't get the same amount of lifetime or whatever the sentence is as someone who in the street in Chicago gets caught with a rock. He passed that bill. He wrote it, and that to me is unacceptable. The crime in this country, like the policies, has got to change. That has to change. It's a system made to hold down the people who do not have the income to get the proper attorneys, to they get fined, and the judges are there to make money. Like, I don't know if you know about the judge that was up north, that he was getting kickbacks incentive from the prisons for sending people to jail constantly. And that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. The crime bill reform has to happen.
Like you said, mass incarceration was born, out of Republican legislation. So, okay, yeah, I'll take the Adrian.
Right, Corey. I hear what you're saying, but in 1994, Joe Biden gave it a shot with steroids. That to me is unacceptable, and it's still going on. That's 1994.
It's hard to believe that anyone from the Republican Party really gives a dang about Black folks, unless you want to use it against Biden. I mean, up until that point, you have not heard any Republicans standing up talking about, "Hey, Black Lives Matter, and we need to fight to make sure this takes place." Maybe, I don't know if that would have happened. Maybe Black folks would have flipped and started joining the Republican Party.
Well, the reason I believe the Republicans are really going after that, because Biden is counting on the Black African American vote. He is selling them something. He's selling the people something when he's doing his actions speak differently. That to me is an issue.
Yeah, you got to try harder. You need more people.
Yeah, I want to go to Adrian. Adrian, you like you fidgeting in your chair like you got something to say in regards to anything that arises. Are you buying it?
Say it with your chest.
No, well, I can agree with a lot of the sentiment in terms of why you support 45, so to speak. There are certain things, I guess, that are important to you, and if he's going to deliver on those items, then you're going to get behind him. I get that, because there are things that are important to me, just like, all of us here on this show. There are things that are important to us, and as long as a candidate is going to push those particular items, we'll support them. But I think at some point you have to really look at, what are you really getting? Are you really getting what you're asking for? Some of the things you had mentioned, I had done just a little bit of research on some of them, and I hear a lot about the First Step Act, and I had heard it said, it's a good first step, but what about the follow through? And then I looked and I said, well, how many people is this really helping right now? And the numbers that I could find, it's something like 3,100, and maybe there's another 1,600 or so that it can help. So I'm like, okay, something's better than nothing, but compared to how many individuals that were poor and didn't have the resources that went to jail, in the 80s, the 90s, through the crack epidemic, I don't necessarily think 3,400 people or 4,500 people is enough. To me, it's like a breadcrumb. It's like, I explained it this way earlier when Corey and I were having a conversation. It's like checking a box. It's like low-hanging fruit that you can say, well, I did this for you. Give me points for this, but really, how much is it going to really impact the community? Like I said, every little bit helps, but at the same time, when you disparage people in terms of, when you're campaigning before you even get into office, when the first Black president was, in office, you had you were the loudest voice about, oh, he's not born here, he's illegitimate. Those kind of things, I don't see how you can recover from them. And like you said, First Step Back, okay, that's great. You did some things for HBCUs. I was telling Corey, I tried to research, okay, well, what's the percentage of the Black population, the Black college population that attends HBCUs? Because HBCUs are really small. And it's, from what I could find, it's something like 15, maybe 20%. So while you are helping these schools, and that is great,
how does that help?
It doesn't help the broader swath of Black America.
No.
So I think, like you said, it's a breadcrumb. I think more could be done. And when I'm more aware of what you're selling. So, and I just can't back him based off of, you're not selling me enough. On top of, you've done and said all this negative stuff, and I just, it really puts me off.
I got you.
Right.
Yeah, I want to hear the First Lady, Carlene.
Carlene, are you back?
But yeah, hold on before we get to Carlene. Y'all are watching and tuned in to the Big Co Show. I am Mastermind. This is the man who the show is named after.
It's your boy Big Co.
And shout outs to the people that's listening. The Diva hit me up. Thank you for tuning in. And on our Facebook Live page, Asia, pronounced Asia. She said, she posted and said, 45 can't tweet BS and expect people to respect his position. So following along those lines, Carlene, let's get you into the conversation. You with us, Carlene? All right, I'm about to say, Michigan is not treating you well. We hear you. We hear you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So have you been tuning in and paying attention to what everybody's been talking about?
I'm going to talk a little bit more about what, Aramesh was saying as far as the opportunity zones and HBCUs and all that for and the criminal law of 1994.
Okay.
Working with Detroit and things like that, I see that is a much much bigger problem than some of the other things that have been discussed so far. And the school is getting these opportunity zones where people can go in and work on their business or build up a business in that area to bring up the poverty levels in those areas. I just think those are very important things to do. The school of choice allows the students to get a better education in other places outside or even at the place they are in, if we can bring in better teachers and stuff. But overall, I support Trump for a lot of reasons, and because of the kids that I work with, the kids that I see, the blackout crime is insane. They come in, they don't have any care for life, any person's life, and to try to teach them to value life is a very difficult thing to do. And I think we need to change the structure of the inner cities first, and then work on it and work outward from there.
So let's stay there for a second, Carlene, and not to cut you off, but you worked with at one point at-risk youth, right?
Yes.
So I guess my question would be, so I don't want to read into anything, but when I think inner city, urban, I think children, people of color, right? So how do you justify supporting a candidate that is, saying a lot of divisive things? Like even recently, there's been a whole y'all or they and we have to protect our homes and we have to keep them from taking our job. And to us, the we is us. I mean, the we is them and the them is us. So
we're the boogeyman.
We're the boogeyman. So how do you I guess how do you justify or how do you explain to the kids that you're servicing, if they're saying, hey, I don't understand how you're following this guy. Like, I feel like he's supporting a lot of things that are going on that are hurting my people. Like, how do you explain that to the kids that you're working with?
I would have to flip the question on the kids and ask them what they felt like their mayor or their city officials have done for them, and which party did they support? And then I would say, what research have you done on the opportunity zones and some things that Trump has done, I guess. Because I would ask them to tell me that I could learn from them.
Answer a question with a question. Come on, Carlene.
Why not?
We was cool. Why? I mean, just trying to. Okay, you know what?
But if you ask me that question, like I would counter with, under the Trump administration, they've defunded a lot of educational programs that do benefit the inner city. So on one hand, you're saying that you support Trump because they're doing these things to the youth, but on paper, it doesn't look like that at all. And I know Albert and I've kind of talked about this before. So do you have anything to add to that, Albert?
Well, I think that the biggest thing is to find consensus in regard to what Arash and Carlene is talking about. I think that's defined as systemic racism, where a system has segregated communities and unfairly targeted communities to harsh punishments, like Arash was sharing about this crime bill that had put so many African Americans behind bars at an alarming rate and whatnot. And so if we come to that point and say this is systemic racism and agree there, so then you won't have mixed messages where you have Nikki Haley talking about there is not systemic racism in America. So let's understand the problem, let's understand the injury, and let's start to service the injury together as one America and start doing some of the things that can help these communities with an honest foot forward. And so if we cannot agree that there is injury, because I know we all agree that everybody is created equal and everybody's created with a same God-given spirit. And so if it's not the people that are flawed, it must be an outside force that's putting people in a certain situation where they are oppressed from the opportunities that most Americans have. And so we need to just deal with properly defining the issue. There's systemic racism, which is an injury to a number of people of color. Once we can come to that conclusion, now we can look for possible solutions that we can work on together and pass policies together. But some of this disingenuous ways that people are addressing this issue it really puts people off, and it's really it really shows the character of folks that's not really taking this stuff seriously.
Yeah.
Bro, I can't see somebody put a whole bunch, put kids in cages separated from their families, and then on the flip side, hey dog, here's $1,200 for you.
I think, and I think just staying on that point, like I've been watching the RNC and just the whole naturalization ceremony last night, where it's just hard for me to see how people can support a person that's just so double, like forked tongue. Like he talks about, countries, shithole countries, his words, and then you use these immigrants and these people that are coming in here to get citizenship as a prop, as if it's something that you support. Now, what I want to share with you, because Arash, he did touch on something I definitely want to get into, and Albert and I talked briefly about this. And the reality of it is, I do agree that the Democratic Party has rubber stamped the black vote for a very long time.
This is true.
And I think, I think it is time for us to say, like Ice Cube said, he had a real strong video that he put out the other day, basically saying that he's looking for a contract with the Democratic Party or whoever is in power with black people, because we have gotten short of the stick. And I wanted to share something that was shared with me from a Trump supporter who also claims to not have any negative views towards people of color and loves black people. All right, so
Wait, he has one black friend.
I think so.
Right.
So this is in response to the Bloomberg article that asked, why should we give Donald Trump another 4 years? And this gentleman said, and I quote, "To answer all of you that would say I can't believe you would vote for Trump. Well, folks, listen up. I'm voting for him. I'm voting for the Second Amendment. I'm voting for the next Supreme Court justice.
Oh God.
I'm voting for the Electoral College.
Oh.
I'm voting to defend the Republic. That was the best one. I'm voting for police and law and order. Now,
Lock up black folks. No more protests.
the law and order premise is the thing that stuck out to me the most as I'm looking in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and I'm seeing where they've, militarized like private citizens that aren't even old enough to purchase firearms, where they're killing people.
I'm tired of dying for no apparent reason, but I digress. Go.
So what would you say to a person that says that these are the reasons that they're standing on that platform? And anyone can jump in and answer that question.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I mean, things like, Second Amendment. Okay. I mean, I'm not a big Second Amendment guy. I'm not a big gun guy, but you know what? It's in the Constitution. I get it. I find it very ironic that the right, the Second Amendment is always the tool or not the tool, but the item they use to say Constitution's under attack. You don't believe in the Constitution. Well, I can easily turn around and say, well, what about the First Amendment? It is first. And when Kaepernick knelt, it was get that SOB out of here, and all this anger that came from a lot of other people. So I really find it ironic that a lot of people, especially on the right, don't seem to be as upset over the First Amendment as they are about the Second Amendment. I just can't reconcile that in my head. And then as far as what we see with a lot of police brutality and people being killed, I mean, you're just talking about people that get stopped randomly for whatever reason. Like I watched a video on Facebook that popped up in my timeline 2 days ago. Guy in North Carolina gets pulled over, 2020 Dodge Charger, black guy. And he was pulled over because he had a bracket around his tag that obscured, I guess, some of the information.
Oh,
So the cop pulled him over. Where are you going? Who are you? Where are you from? Are you around from this area? And I'm like, if it's really about the tag, how about you just write me my ticket and let me be on my way? But, you know, the video goes on for about 6 or 7 minutes, and finally they pull the guy out the car. They show him the tag, and then the one of the two officers that's there, he says, "Do you mind if I search the car?" And the guy's like, "No." And he's like, "No, I can't search the car. I know you mind." He's like, "No, you can't search my car." And I'm thinking, how did we go from a violation from over a bracket on the tag of your car to we need to search your car? And to me, it looks like, okay, this is a high crime area. We got a black man, full beard, afro, you know, he kind of fits the description. He might be a suspect to have weapons or drugs in the car. We got him on this. Let's see what we can find.
Yeah.
Another cop arrives, dog walks the car. End of the video, there's no hit. The guy goes on about his way. But I'm like, if I were an American citizen, I would be just as hot over that as anything to do with the Second Amendment. How are you just going to stop somebody, waste 10, 15 minutes of their time over something that should be a ticket,
right,
and then it turns into, you got any drugs or weapons in the car? I mean, what kind of world do we live in where I can't be driving a new car through anywhere USA and I have to be there doing something nefarious?
can't be
that
walking,
upsets me.
running, or sleeping.
Yeah, I mean, that upsets me, and I don't see how a president can still say, hey, we're going to back the blue, we're going to back these guys no matter what they do. They're going to back them. It can be Laquan McDonald, and the video been hid and kept under wraps for a year. It's bad once it comes out, but you know what? They still going to back the blue. I can't. My morals and ethics do not allow me to support that individual, no matter what he offers.
Okay, I have an open question for our Republicans, Trump supporters. A few days ago, probably a couple of days ago, 45 kind of said it in jest. What about 12 more years? You know, how about, y'all elect me for 12 more years? What is y'all stance on that? One, would you go for it? Would you help him change everything so he could stay in office longer than who ran 4 terms? Oh man. Anyway, so
you have to change the Constitution in order to do that. Like
I'm saying, but he made the comment, like he does, he'll float an idea out there and let somebody else gravitate, pull on it, and run with it.
But I think,
so
that speaks exactly to why he is not competent for the role. Like I just think things that comes out of his mouth, like they just and I kind of want to go back, and not that we can definitely get that. I kind of want to go back to what Adrian was saying in regards to how the police are policing, right? I think attitude reflects leadership, and I think part of the problem with Donald Trump being in office is it absolutely gives people the green light to say it's okay, because we are following the rhetoric that's coming down from our leader. When you're saying such divisive things as you're saying, like when the Jacob Blake thing happened, the first thing that Donald Trump Jr. tweets out was his arrest record, which was totally incidental to him being shot 7 times in the back. Yeah. And I think what's happened now, as long as he's in that chair, and also as long as police aren't being like prosecuted for these murders, like Breonna Taylor, like still no arrest in her murder. So as long as these things are happening, I think for us, what it says when I read this statement that this gentleman made about what that means, law and order to the law and order party means abuse, persecution, murder to Black people. And I'm just going to let you know, when he says we want to restore law and order to black people, that sounds like open season. Like, and Arash, like, do you resonate with any of those statements that I got from that post? Like, are any of those like sticking points with you for why you support Donald?
I mean, watching the videos in Seattle and what's going on, you know, and where, you know, there's whites, there's blacks, there's Hispanics, there's all different types of walk in those riots. And, you know, Martin Luther King, when he protested, he didn't protest by, you know, burning his own neighborhood down. African-American business owners are losing their business that they invested their life in. And there's the kind of things that I think he's trying to say law and order. But the question I have for your co-host, Corey, is what would take you, or what would you consider America to be great again? Like, what is your definition of what you want to see happen for America to be what it was meant to be?
I'm still waiting for America to be great. I mean, America is all right, but America has, for the most part, hasn't been good to people that look like me. Just because I've been okay in America, just because I've only had one incident, I've been pulled over because I fit the suspicion, you know, I fit the profile of somebody. A lot of other people haven't been that lucky. Just yesterday, someone hasn't been that lucky. This week, I heard today that it's been 12 or 17 days when someone hasn't been killed by the police this year. It's only been 17 days out of this whole year so far, 2020, that someone has been killed by the police. That's crazy. That's crazy. But it's a whole lot that needs to happen with this country. I was at work just thinking. I was just like, America has done a disservice to white America. The whole concept of America has done a disservice to white America, because if you think about it, it's led white America think that they're better and bigger than they are. And then to come to have a reality check and be like, oh, snap, I'm the bad guy. Look, if I'm looking at my history, I did X, Y, and Z, bringing people from here and here, taking and doing all of this. When all of this comes down on you, you have a realization, oh, this is, I got to block this away. I don't want to think about this because this is bad. So a riot, let's not call the Boston, whatever happened in Boston, let's call it the Boston Tea Party instead of a riot, because we're going to make it look cooler. So now what we going to call it? The Kenosha House Party?
We had that same conversation, like, and it's two different Americas, Arash. Like, I would love to chime in on the question. I would love to hear what any of the panelists have to say too. I think it starts at the top. I think at the point that Donald Trump comes out and says, hey guys, this is bad and it is wrong. He's never said that. He's never said, hey, what happened to these people, or what's happening, or what has systemically happened for hundreds of years is wrong, and we need to do something to change it. At the point that the president,
the Central Park 5 executed,
he's perpetuated this throughout his history and being in the spotlight. So, any other panelists want to chime in on that?
Well, one of the things we have to always try to put ourselves in the other person's shoes, as to truly understand what's going on. You know, Black people have been persecuted. Let me start with America. The powers that be are very good at demonizing people to start a process of putting people in a certain position that's not inclusive. And so, and we've done that throughout our history with the Indians, with Black people, Black and brown people. And I would like to hear what Arash has to say when America demonized anyone that looked like they came from the Middle East after 9/11. But see, the thing about being principled, I would say to Arash that Black people they understood what was going on with your community. And you had an ally in us because our principle is strong because we know the pattern of America of demonizing people so that they can do horrible things to them. And so when they're doing this to the Hispanics and calling everybody illegal, rapists, and all this stuff to demonize them, to rally up a base of white people that will follow behind that, you should be principled and say, it didn't feel good when they did that to us after 9/11, and it shouldn't feel, and we should stand beside illegals or Hispanics that are just trying to come here for a better life, or black people. Be principled about it. Don't sit in a party that's waving a rebel flag and what that means to this country. You know, you can be conservative, a conservative Democrat or a conservative independent, but always be moral and principled about what you support, because all that does is perpetuate this situation and get this country in a position to where we go into war with one another, because people are being silent when they see things that are wrong. If you see something wrong, say something and stand on the principle of what is right. And so that's all I'm saying. Don't play these games with these spirits that will destroy America because it ain't right. Whether it's being done to Hispanics, whether it's being done to people from the Middle East or the black people. Be real about it. And that's what's going to bring America together if we stop playing games with this stuff and call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me give you an old my first experience of being pulled over being with a African American. So here I am with Kwame Harris and Mableton.
What up, Kwame?
And Carlos.
Oh, yo, bitch.
West.
Rest in peace, Carlos.
Rest in peace, Carlos. And we left, I believe, if I remember quickly, it was left like Quick Trip. No, it was quick something right on the corner before Quick Trip. And Kwame didn't do anything wrong. The guy pulled us over, asked us a bunch of questions, asked them questions. And to me, it was like, why did they get pulled over? And that was my first experience, having to experience that, because in Iran, I didn't see that. Because I think in my lifetime there, the 14 years, I saw one African. And so when I came here, I wasn't familiar with that. I agree with the social injustice, the financial hardships, the things that the government, not the Republicans, not the Democrats, then the government has passed and has put in place to keep certain minorities down. I agree with you. But why do we keep voting for the same party and the same people? We got to vote them out. That's what I'm passionate about. Mm-hmm. I agree 100% what Albert's saying about Trump. I get it. He says things to entice, to get clickbaits, and I get that. I understand what he does. I disagree with a lot of it. And when you have a president that is handicapped, and one of the major media, CNN, is constantly like driving their agenda, and they're in a bed with a party that is representing their agenda, that to me is an issue. That needs to be the freedom of press.
You said for Fox News, though, Arash. I mean, come on.
That is true. I disagree with a lot of things that Fox News say. I don't even watch them. I don't like the fact that there's a right and a left news center, because people will be manipulated. They'll be like, CNN is no longer a real source of news. Fox News is not a source of real news. They're a business to sell advertisements. And they got characters now that are not journalists any longer. They're great TV personalities. Don Lemon, Anderson Cooper, Cuomo, the guy who faked his coming out of his basement of COVID-19, where earlier in the week is, at a religious ceremony and at a party. And then, those kinds are unacceptable. They're leading the public down the wrong, street. They are enticing and throwing fuel on what's going on right now. The number one issue in this country is racism that has to be figured out and has to be put in. Something has to change. being that, we vote out these people that are in that office. Nancy Pelosi, look at the San Francisco homeless crisis. They don't even address that. Weinstein and all those, Maxine, all those people that are coming to us from New York. The crime right now in New York is outrageous because they're defunding the police. Don't defund the police. We got to put more funds in there and recoach them, put higher testing to get the right police officer. I listened to a podcast when Jocko, he's a Navy SEAL trainee out of San Diego, and he talked about how when he was in Afghanistan, they had to go from search and destroy to getting with the villagers and find out what's going on, how they can help them, how to de-escalate the tension and bring that down. They spent so much time and training on how to de-escalate and how to be able to do what we needed to do to get the local community on their side. And our police officers, they get their training and basic training, and they're released and all on the job learning.
Yeah.
I've written
all great points. I want to get to Albert, and I know you got something to say, but before I just want to something that you were saying. You said two things that kind of struck me, right? You said that racism is the number one the number one problem in the United States. Yet you support a candidate that is contributing to that divisiveness, and then you also said, the problem is not defunding the police, which brings us back to something that you said previously about how these news outlets are businesses that are creating spin, but you support a candidate that is the king of spin, misinformation, and outright lies to the American people. I just find it hard to believe that Pinocchio. These are the things that you want, but you're supporting a candidate that is counterproductive to that. And I'll go to Albert.
Well, one of the things, Arash, because we want to come to a consensus of the evidence. You've already said that the number one issue is racism, and that is a spirit that is in America. And the unfortunate thing is our history of the parties is very complicated. At one point in time, the spirit of this racism was in the Democratic Party in the beginning. I'm not arguing with you there. And then at another point of time, this racism in spirit has moved and shifted to the other party. And the one of the telltale, just trying to keep it simple, the symbolism of racism in this country is that battle flag of the Confederacy. And so the progression of this country, where we have moved forward to give women's the right to vote, blacks the right to vote, civil rights, and all this movement to help people assimilate into this dream, this spirit still exists. And one of the telltale signs of this spirit is where the flag is, where the battle flag is. And so if you can just take a thin slice and just look around which party is flying the flag, the spirit of racism. That ain't got nothing to do with Donald Trump. But I guarantee you, he has to do dog whistles that bring them along. Yeah. And so if you keep denying this spirit of racism that's following under this flag, you're doing a disservice to where you're trying to get to. They'll come for us in the morning and they're going to come for you at night.
That night, I 100% agree. Adrian, you have anything to add to that? And Carlene, I want to get back to you. I don't know if we got you back. Did we get Carlene back?
I'm back on. I'm back.
All right.
So Adrian, real quick, do you have anything to add? And I want to go to Carlene.
Yeah,
we're running short on time. We absolutely know that we're not going to come to any conclusive resolutions in the time that we have. I did want to take a quick second to see if anybody was asking any questions, on the feed. But go ahead, Adrian. I know you had something to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the one thing that I really see with human nature in general is it's really hard for people to practice what they preach. It's really hard for people to do the right thing when money's being thrown at them, when power's being thrown at them. I just think that there are a lot of people that don't have the constitution to do the right it it saddens me because I hear a lot of people, especially that support Trump, that say, well, character doesn't matter, or I didn't vote for him to be the moral leader of my household. I don't need him to be the moral leader of my household. I just want him to have some type of morals and ethics about him so that, you know, when the lights aren't on and when people aren't watching, he does the right thing, you know, so he doesn't, I don't know, kick the stenographer out when he goes to talk to Putin. So he doesn't have a particular recording moved to a classified server so no one can get to it. You know, those kinds of things, you know, people talked about, oh, what is he going to do with the educational system and this, that, and the other. And I look at a lot of things that the conservatives do, and I wonder, well, are you really trying to help it? How is taking money from public schools for charter schools or vouchers, how is that helping public schools? I mean, yeah, the rich that have cars and can drive their kids to charter schools and use that voucher for a public school, a private school, because they want a discount, they're all for that. But the kids that are struggling in the inner cities, they don't have those options, and all you're going to do is take away funding from schools. So, you know, things like that. Put your money where your mouth is. Talk about reforming how schools are funded. We can't have, since we're in Cobb County, we can't have South Cobb and Pebblebrook and those kind of areas they might have some issues with funding, but then you look at schools like Hope, Walton, Lassiter, they have buku money. And it's all because of that tax base, that business base. That has to be changed. We're all part of the same county. Divide the money up. Whoever has the biggest problems gets the biggest slice of the pie. It's that simple. But if that happened, I guarantee you people in East Cobb would go nuts.
Oh, absolutely. That's how we created that situation in the first place. I mean, when we were at Pebblebrook on the south side of the county, there were, you know, a lot of white families that lived there, and, you know, white flight, and that's exactly what's happened, you know, in that part of the world. I want to get to Carlene because I feel like, you know, we've neglected our one woman on the call, and it's been some technical issues. But Carlene, chime in.
Would you vote for him to be in office for 12 years?
I don't care about that.
I do.
Yeah, but we don't care
about that.
Yeah, we don't care about that at all. All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
About
because she would.
The only thing I can say about the 12 years is there's some speculation on the impeachment process for the 12 years. I haven't really researched that one very much. But honestly, I agree with a lot of the school reform that you guys are talking about. The fact that we do need to sit down and have more conversations on the front of what to do with inner city schools, and also what to do with this whole racism issue, because the conversations we have got to make them, and we need to sit down and talk about them. And as a person out here in the rural counties, I totally understand the school district situation with the money, because as we have very nice schools down in Detroit and around that area that get lots more money due to taxes and things like that than our little rural school up here. So we don't get to offer a lot of the things that are there. So school reform is something that definitely needs to be on the books for the next election, I believe, this one coming up. And then as far as racism goes, those are conversations that we need to have on a more regular basis all the way around. Sure. Working with the kids that I work with on a regular basis, just up until recently, I was trying to get my DT done now, which is demonstration teaching. The kids that I used to work with, I talked to Corey about this the other day with the whole fact that I'm a white woman that works in that kind of situation with a lot of kids that are minorities and of color, different ethnicities, and I got called a lot of names. But the reality is I was there to help them with their education to try to get them out of the system. And you don't want to get me to talk about the system, because the system is another problem that needs to be addressed. As far as what we do with our kids into the system, because it's very difficult once they're in the system for them to come out of the system. And that's another huge problem that we need to face and do something about.
Agreed. So before we
Did you guys
we're
lose
gonna
me?
have to wrap it up. I really appreciate the dialogue. Again,
yes.
we never thought that we could solve any of these challenges in one call, but we want to have the conversation. So, are there any questions for the panelists on any of the live feeds? And I want to give everybody an opportunity to close with a parting shot.
No, but just shout out to everyone that's been paying attention. If you've been watching the show, the Facebook comments have been popping up on the screen, so we appreciate you for tuning in. But like Big Coach said, ladies first, give us your last comment for the day, and thank you.
I kind of want to direct it, though. So
let's do it.
So part of the whole purpose of this conversation is to get a better understanding of the other side. So Carlene, in a parting shot, 30 seconds, what is it that you want the other side to understand about you and your choice in reference to everything that's going on? What is it that you feel like isn't being properly communicated that you want people to understand about why you select?
Well, there are many reasons why I support Trump. One of them, as Corey and I, we didn't get to discuss today, was the healthcare issue. It's a really big one for me. The Obamacare really was going to cost us a lot of money. And then when Trump actually got rid of that, it saved us money. That was one of the biggest things for me. Other than that, I just, I'm a Trump supporter because we definitely need different politicians in. People that have been in for 47 years, 50 years, they need to go. We need to see something different. And that's the only way to make change is to bring in different. And that's all I really got right now.
I agree. Bye-bye, McConnell.
Arash.
I mean, I 100% agree with Albert that the racism is a spirit. It's been a spirit that was brought over, and that has to change. We are continuing to vote the same people in office over and over and over, and none of the policies change. A lot of hope was put on Obama, so when he got in office, that he would help bridge that gap. That didn't happen, and I feel like every 4 years, this topic comes up, and then as soon as November 3rd is over, it disappears. And I don't want that to happen this November 3rd. I want vote people out that continue to do the same thing over and over and over. And that, to me, it's they're not making changes. They're not only that, one thing needs to change is these people, they serve 4 years. They get a lifetime pension. When you got a mom that just had a baby and cannot afford diapers, that this person decides to take vacation, all of them, and they're not impacting and making decisions for the American businesses like struggling in COVID. That to me is unacceptable. And, one thing I admire about the president is he's donating all this, salary to all these charities. Yeah, he doesn't need the money. I get it. But to me, is we've got to get politicians for the people, by the people, not somebody who's made a career out of it and have their own interest in it, where their kids are getting millions of dollars a contract. Nancy Pelosi, all of them, Mitch McConnell, all those Republicans, all of them are guilty. We need people in there that are everyday people that know how to run a business, know how to run healthcare. We've got somebody right now in the education system that shouldn't be there.
We have a president that's had several bankruptcies and a lot of failed business. I got you. And we'll come. When you said something about donating to charity, yeah, he's donated billions of dollars to like billionaires that already have big business too. But I love the enthusiasm. All right, I don't want to cut you off.
If I'm getting kickbacks,
Adrian, 30 seconds. What is it? What for you? I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. What is it that you feel like, whether it be the Republican Party, whether it be Trump supporters, whether it be white America in general? What is it that you feel like where the disconnect is they are failing to understand it as best you can in 30 seconds, my brother?
In 30 seconds? That's tough.
No,
but one of the biggest things, I'll just say this. I think for minorities, people of color, especially Black folks, it's always going to come down to social justice. It's going to come down to social justice before taxes, before employment rate, before how well the stock market is performing. None of that does us any good if I can't walk outside my neighborhood and not be suspected of fitting a description or potentially, do I belong here? Saw you walking around these houses. Is this your house? You know, none of that other stuff matters if I'm not treated equally, or if I'm looked at with a suspicious eye all the time, or if my 16-year-old kid is looked at with a suspicious eye. None of that other stuff matters. So that has to be fixed first. It's number one before everything else.
Yeah, Mr. McCray.
Yes, I like to listen to Arash Farhang, and analyze. Does what he's saying, does it have coherence? Just doing the eye test of which party looks like a rainbow and which party looked like the past. And you're saying it's time for change. It's time to get different people in there and different voices in there. And you look at one party and it looks like the past, and they slogan say, "Make America Great Again," as in going back in the past. Which party is talking about moving forward with more women of color, more a woman vice president, a Black man being the first Black man president? Which party looks like America moving forward versus America looking backwards? So I'm trying to figure out the coherence of what you're saying. Yes, some politicians have been in there for many years, but there is a transition that's going on to where and so I just like to hear and dialogue and like how you justify what your eyes are seeing.
Yeah.
Well, I know that there was two speakers.
I'm gonna have to pump the brakes, right? How about we do this? How about we make a part two? Like I thought it was a great conversation. I would love it if we could have everybody on again on the next show and we can continue this. Like I said, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to Albert, but we do want to keep the show within a minimum. I think we kind of already gone over. If everybody is on board, we can schedule some time to do this again. We're looking at shooting. Generally, the show's gonna be on probably Wednesdays. Wednesday that we'll be looking at Wednesdays. So I mean, if you're free next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Rash, you're not gonna let me get out of here. But you got something you got to say, huh?
First Black Republican Attorney General in the state of Kentucky spoke last night. The first Black senator from South Carolina spoke the night before. So don't just say a false statement when you cannot back it up with the first Attorney General in Kentucky, African American, and the first senator in South Carolina. Times are changing. People are waking up, and African Americans voted for those guys as Republican, and they had the highest turnout from Democrats to vote for those guys. Party is changing. We just need the right people, not lifetime politicians. I'm out.
And I'll say this, they tried it out there too. You're right. You're absolutely right. But look, I just want to thank everybody for taking the time out. I want to thank everybody out there that's watching on the stream that got a chance to come and check out our reboot. This is what we're going to do. We're going to have these real hard conversations where we can try to bridge some gaps. And we're not going to leave the conversation with anybody changing anybody's opinion. I can guarantee you that. But what we want is to have a better understanding of what's going on the other side of the fence. So I thank everybody for joining us tonight. I am your boy, Big Co.
It's your man, Mastermind.
This is the Big Co Show. We hope that y'all join us next week, 7:30. We're going to do a part two,
I guess that's what we doing.
Any questions? The Big Co Show at gmail.com. You can go to Big Co TV on YouTube to check out the stream, or the Big Co Show page on Facebook. Thanks to all of the guests. Thanks to you, my friend.
No, thank you.
We had a good time, good show.
Yes, sir.
And don't ever forget, we out the street. Hands up. Don't shoot. Appreciate it. Y'all be good.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate y'all so much. Great job, people. Thank you.
All right, cool. See you
Love
next
all
week.
of y'all. It's the Big Coach Show. Real quick, this is my favorite quote of the show. She's my co-star. My post-star.